Hey everyone, this is Nidhi from Designhill, your host for the day. I hope you and your family are keeping well and safe, taking care of your near and dear ones, taking all the precautions and not going out too much. I would like to welcome you all for this webinar with Jordan Duvall, where we're going to discuss about how to stand out and attract paying clients as a graphic designer. We're going to touch upon some really insightful subjects that a designer struggles with in their daily lives. And as you all know, today's event is brought to you by Designhill, world's leading creative marketplace that caters to the creative needs of businesses and individuals alike, who can source high quality design from professional designers through its print on demand marketplace called Print Shop by Designhill. You can also buy 50 plus unique products with thousands of artworks created by a world class community of independent artists. So, moving ahead, let me introduce our speaker for today. We have a very special person with us. We have with us Jordan Duvall. Jordan is an award winning creative director and expert in branding and marketing. Combining a well thought out strategy with boundless imagination, Jordan Duvall has become the premium authority for building soul brands. She has more than 20 years of experience in media and advertising and has worked on such campaigns as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Star Trek, and The Voice. And some of her private clients include Eddie Murphy, Ben Stiller, Cards Against Humanity, and Manifestation Babe. As owner and founder of Ignite Your Soul Brand LLC, she weaves her big agency experience with neuro linguistic programming, ancient wisdom, and strategy. Today, she consults and mentors business owners enrolled in her implementation programs in building a soul brand that exudes authority and credibility from the second people land on their page. So excited to have you here with us, Jordan. Please say hi to the audiences.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. It sounds like we have a really international crowd, so welcome. I know everyone's on different time zones, so thank you for coming in the wee hours and the late hours. So really excited to be here today. Yeah, let me share my screen and we can get started here.
Before we do that, we have
Okay,
a couple of announcements to make. Let me
I'll
just
go for it.
quickly make a couple of announcements so we can, kickstart this insightful session. Guys, we are giving away certificates to the attendees who would stick till the end of the workshop. So just can't miss on this chance, you guys. So stay tuned till the end. Also, you can take a screenshot of this DH. Ignite Your Soul brand, that's Jordan's Instagram handle, and use hashtag Designal Events. One lucky winner will have a chance to win a print shop gift card worth $50. Along with that, there's chat box. Robin, my colleague, will be sharing it with you every now and then in the chat box. Also, Jordan has been gracious enough to put together a resource page for all of you, something that will come handy to you in your journey as a designer. We have shared the same in the post event mailer that you will get after this event, so please look forward to it. It is all about.
Excellent.
All right, that was all about design hill. Your screen.
Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, can everyone see that?
Yes, we
Type yes in
can.
the chat. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, I am so excited to be here. And today we're going to be talking about how to stand out and attract paying design clients. And if you guys could just share in the chat, where are you in your business? Are you just starting out? Have you been in business for a few years? Are you more seasoned? Are you a creative director? So just type in the chat, what is your experience level? So I can get an idea of where everyone's at in their design journey. Starting out. All right, cool. Yeah, keep typing in there. So want to welcome everyone. I know you guys have come from all over the world, different time zones, carved out time in your day. And I know time is your most important resource. So I'm really excited and honored to have you here. And we're going to share some really amazing content. Grab a notepad or a Google Doc or something like that, because we're going to have some really great stuff that you can refer back to. And you can always watch the replay if you want to kind of go back and pull anything out later. So just a little bit about me. Niti was so kind and introduced me. But again, my background is entertainment advertising. I came up, I came up in entertainment advertising in LA at the top agencies, and, straight out of college, I got really lucky, and, I had a good book, so that helped as well. And, got to work at a top firm. Worked on Lord of the Rings, on Shrek, on Star Trek, and, my family was in entertainment and my background was in entertainment, and then, got in and fell in with some high-level celebrities and was doing some private client work with them. So that was really incredible. And, and then I started Ignite Your Soul brand almost 4 years now. I think in February it'll be 4 years, which is incredible. And I've had the opportunity to work with some really amazing entrepreneurs. You guys may be familiar with Manifestation Babe or Project Me with Tiffany. And I'm always learning, always refining my process. So I feel really lucky for that. And, through my own journey of building my own brand and my own business, I've taken what I've learned from big agencies, strategy, a lot about neuro-linguistic programming. And for those of you, type in the chat if you're familiar with NLP or neuro-linguistic programming. Ultimately, it is the study of excellence and how the conscious and the subconscious mind work together to create your reality. So it was pretty mind-bending for me and really revolutionary. And, it took me about a year to digest all the things I learned and figure out how to implement that into the work that I do with my clients, so that it's working on a tactical level, but it's also working on an energetic level. So really awesome stuff, and really excited. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about mastering your success mindset. We're going to talk about leading with your standout portfolio. We're also going to talk about how to be congruent with your pricing. And I am in the US and I, work in a US, financial system. So I'm going to use numbers based on what I'm used to in my industry. And then you can take the, the methodologies behind it and kind of apply it to wherever you're at. And let's see, yeah, corporate company, excellent. And then also I'm going to talk to you about creating an extraordinary client experience. It seemed like a bunch of questions were around, how to work with clients that may be a little bit more challenging. So I want to give you some tips of how to maybe, set yourself up for success in the front end. And then I want to go into focus and time management skills, because when you're working for yourself, and even if you're working for a company, it's really important to be able to manage your time and use it wisely and be putting it in the right place so that you get the results that you want. So who's excited? Type in the chat if you're excited. And which one of these are you most looking forward to hearing about? The mindset, the portfolio, the pricing, the client experience, or the time management? So, we got a poll over here. Excellent. Cool. Yeah. And then, if you could go over and answer the poll in the chat, that would be awesome. Pricing, wonderful. Yeah, if you guys could go put in the chat what you're most excited about. That way I know maybe there's an area to spend a little bit more time on. Time management, excellent. Wonderful. So the first thing that I want to talk about, which is really the foundation before I can dive into anything else, is mindset. And honestly, I had no idea about mindset for, I don't know, most of my life. So, I went about my days. I thought everything was as it was and was just kind of reacting to most of the situations in my life. And then when I became a mom, I ended up having a really challenging pregnancy, and like my life basically fell apart. I lost my house, I lost my grandma, I had challenges with my family over some personal choices, and it really opened my eyes and kind of cracked me open to figure out, how did I get to this mess of basically losing everything that I had? And I ended up spending 2 weeks in the hospital on bed rest. They wanted to induce me, and it was a really traumatic period in my life. And I had all this time to sit in this hospital bed and really stare at the wall by myself and just be like, how did I get here? What happened? I'm a creative. I understand how important it is and that I create my own reality. What did I do to get here? And that really began my journey of going inward and really understanding what's below the surface. And, we're all creatives. You understand what it's like to get in flow and be in that space. And there's a world behind what you see. And it really comes from how things, how you operate with your mind. Is your mind leading? Or are you leading? And ultimately, to break it down, there's really two ways of being. There's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And I would say for, 30 plus years of my life, I had a fixed mindset and I didn't know. I was that way. And I wish I had known earlier. So that's why I want to start with this. And I want to, maybe you're familiar with this. Maybe you're like, I've never heard about this before. So regardless of where you are in your journey of understanding this stuff, I want you to start diving in, because really understanding how to be the one that's running the show versus letting your mind and false beliefs is going to be, transformational for you in your business. And so a fixed mindset is really, it's someone who they avoid challenges. If something gets hard, maybe you're dealing with a challenging client or a challenging job, or things are tough in other areas in your life, and you really avoid them, you run from them. And someone with a fixed mindset is going to look at the same situation and flip it and confront it and have a tough conversation, right? Nobody likes to have tough conversations, but sometimes you have to have tough conversations in order to get through and clear the air. And someone with a fixed mindset, they're just going to give up easily. Something gets hard, they don't want to do it, they're going to let it go. Whereas someone with a growth mindset is going to understand that if you persist and move through the challenging times, you're going to learn and you're going to grow and you're going to come out on the other side so much stronger and just have so much more wisdom that carries you through your life. And when you have a fixed mindset, how many people have gone into Instagram or somewhere on social media or heard about someone that, booked a big client or had a big thing, and you look at them and you feel envy, you feel jealous, you're angry about it, and you have these negative emotions. And, that's really coming from a place of lack and scarcity. And when you can look at someone that's doing something that you desire or you admire and look at that from a growth mindset and really realize that, instead of being jealous or envious and looking at it as, wow, they're showing me that this is possible. This is proof that I can do this too. If someone lands a big client or someone works with a really cool company, and instead of being upset about it, you can say, wow, well, if they can do it, then I can do it too. And so that requires a shift in how you think and how you approach your life and your business and your work. And then also, a fixed mindset kind of sees putting in the effort is fruitless. It's like, why bother? Which kind of goes down to the last one, that it's like everything, it's just this way. I can't change it. I'm stuck this way. Why bother? Whereas someone with a great growth mindset, they understand that when you put in that effort and you really put in the energy of mastery for whatever it is, whatever your craft is, and in this case, it would be design, maybe that's, UX, UI, print, branding, whatever it may be, whatever your specific craft is. And that you believe that, you can develop that you can learn. Yes, we were all born into however we were born, and you can change that. You can grow, you can learn, you can open the door to opportunities, you can make connections, and you can really change your current circumstances in a number of ways. And this is huge in life and in design is, someone with a fixed mindset ignores feedback, right? Like maybe a client or a friend or a creative director or a mentor gives you feedback and you dismiss it. And ultimately that's going to harm you, because there's a lesson in that feedback, and that lesson could mean anything. So ultimately, you're the one that is giving that meaning to it. And so you really want to learn from that feedback. Is there something that I could have done better in my design? Is there a way that I could have approached a conversation better? How could I have handled this? And especially when it comes to design, if someone that has more experience and someone you admire is showing you a way to improve, you want to listen, because it's just going to make you better. I know for me, I was in a situation later on in my career where I was surrounded by some of the most talented people in the industry. And I just was like, put my head down and asked a bunch of questions and just learned. And I dropped my ego and I was like, I want to soak up and learn as much from you as I can, because you know so much more than me. And instead of trying to like put on a front and pretend like I know what I'm doing and I'm the boss and I know what's right, I just let that go. So I really invite you and encourage you to open yourself up to feedback, and take it with a grain of salt. But if there's someone that you admire and is giving you advice or helping you learn, listen and imply that. So type in the chat, what was your biggest takeaway around mindset? Because this is such a huge piece. And, it's something that I practice every day, sometimes hourly, depending on what's going on, to be fully honest. COVID has definitely challenged me in many ways. And, it's really helped grow my business in ways that I never could have imagined. And then this is something that I know everyone is really important, accepting criticism, yes. And I think, think about it, it's not always criticism. And, sometimes someone who says something could say it wrong, And I think if you're giving feedback, you can say, are you open to feedback? Or if there's a mentor out there, if someone you admire, you could say, would you be open to giving me feedback? I think there's ways to open the door to get, people's response to what it is that you're doing. And so, one of the most important things, and this is, the mindset's huge on a sort of a high level scale, but in terms of your craft, your portfolio is everything. And never, ever forget that. There are times in my career that I've been lazy and just unmotivated at my job or at different agencies, and I've dialed in my work, and then I finish and I don't have really anything to show for it, right? I have mediocre work, and if I go show it to someone, that becomes how I'm remembered, because whatever you put in your book is going to be, whatever is the lowest quality work inside of your portfolio is how people are going to view you. So you really want to make sure that every single piece that goes in your book is impeccable. It's perfect. There are no errors, like everything lines up. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And it's better to show 3 incredible pieces than 20 mediocre pieces. I've looked at a ton of portfolios for my own business and for other people. And it's incredible to me what people will showcase as their portfolio. And that's that. Once I see someone's portfolio that's not good, I dismiss that. And so, especially if you're starting out, you're learning your craft, you're getting better. And so err on the side of less versus more, because that's going to be huge when you're showing it to people. And I think too, this is huge, especially if you're starting out, but anywhere in your life and business, is you want to specialize. And, I'm going to go into this deep because I think it is really important to understand. And, when I'm working with more small business owners, I talk about this more from a niche standpoint, right? So I'm sure, if you've been around the business world, you've heard about niching and targeting and audience building and all of that stuff. Now, when it comes to specializing, so for example, I grew up in LA, I worked in entertainment advertising. I would say the majority of my career, I did some side projects here and there. So I did some branding here and I did some branding at agencies, but it was mostly movie and TV posters. And so that was my specialty. And it was great because I was able to really hone my craft. I got really good at it. I learned processes and flows and just ways to do it better, to improve. And that was the majority of my book. And then, once I became a mom, my husband and I started thinking about, well, we don't really want to raise our daughter in Los Angeles. It just doesn't have the values that we want. We want to move somewhere else. And I looked at my book and I'm like, all I have are movie posters and TV posters. The only place that this is really valid is Los Angeles and New York. And I want to leave LA and I don't want to move to New York. So that was a huge eye opener for me of, wow, I kind of need to diversify my assets a little bit, so to speak. And so that's when I decided I'm going to hire a business coach and figure, I'm like, I've got a lot of skills. I've studied social media, marketing, strategy, all this stuff beyond just design that I've never really figured out how to package and monetize from, a business standpoint. So I hired a coach and she helped me, and that was 4 years ago. And, it's just been an evolution since then. And so when it comes to your business, it doesn't mean that you only have to do one thing. It does mean that you want to be really targeted with your portfolio so that if you're applying to a job for someone that's asking for branding, then you want to make sure that you tailor a portfolio or a specific web portfolio page or book on your website that only has branding. If you want to work on, yes, ask your questions. Exactly. So, and if you want to, if you want to do, software design, or you want to do website design, and even if you want to do website design within that, maybe you're doing e-com or maybe you're doing personal branding, I would specialize as much as you can. And on top of that, I would really only showcase the kind of work that you want to attract. Like I just redid my portfolio and I'm in the process of launching it in the next week or two. And there were some, really great jobs that I've done and the work was awesome, but I'm just like, that was cool, but I really want this kind of work. So this is the kind of work that I'm going to showcase. So it's really important to put out there what you want to get back. And if you are going to be doing work across multiple types of industries, then tailor it. And, I noticed this from a business standpoint, and I noticed it from a designer standpoint, I get alerts from different agencies because, I'm always interested in cool projects and just to see what's going on in the industry. And, the job alerts that come through, it's, looking for someone that specializes in automotive, or someone that specializes in fashion, or someone that specializes in software design, or someone that specializes in social media design. So the companies that you want to go work for are looking for people with a specific set of skills. So you can work in these different avenues. And then I encourage you to create portfolios, either PDFs that you send to people or actual web pages that showcase that different work, so that when you are bidding on a gig or you're applying for a job or whatever it may be, you can showcase that work, because you're going to stand out so much faster when you have this series of work that's relating to the client and what they're looking for. And in that, the way to really elevate your portfolio is to position it as a case study, right? You can absolutely put really beautiful work into a document and share that with someone, and they're going to scroll through and they'll be like, oh, they do pretty work. However, you have to think about it from the perspective of the person that is looking to hire you, okay? They're super busy, they have a lot on their plate, and they really want to find an expert they can hand it off to. And even if you're new, you can still showcase this through being proactive and being resourceful and doing research and going above and beyond for your clients. And you really want to showcase it through a case study. And what that means is kind of tied into what I talked about below about the results, is instead of just saying here's the website I designed, it's okay, client X came to me and these were their problems. They weren't getting conversions, they were getting the wrong client, whatever it is. And, I would add that into your process, which we can get into in a little bit about client stuff, is really figuring out what is the problem that the client's having and why do they need your help. And then you talk about it and say, this is the problem. Then because that was the problem, this is the process that I went through to solve the problem. I changed the conversion, I changed the UX, or I changed the button colors, or I changed the formatting, or whatever it is. And you can show a before and after, or just showcase the new thing and explain your thinking behind why you did all of these things. And then talk about the results and say, based on the changes that we did, my client had all of these successes, and they were able to, and with the results, I would be as quantitative as possible. Get numbers, right? They increased their blog conversions by X amount, or they increased their revenue by dollar amount. They increased their views by X amount. So you want to be asking the client for these numbers. Obviously, if you get a testimonial that doesn't have that, that's great too. But I just want you to plant the seed that you want to be asking for these numbers, because it's going to be much easier for you to showcase. Branding can be a little bit ethereal, right? It's I'm taking something that doesn't look or feel good and I'm making it look and feel amazing, and then people respond differently. So when you can talk about the quantitative results of making X amount of money, making X amount of conversions, whatever it is, for people that are a little bit more tactical in the things that they're doing, it's just going to make such a big difference. And then the other thing that you really want to take into consideration is you want to make your portfolio easy to navigate, because the people that you're showing it to are super busy. So if you're doing it as a website, you want to make sure it's really easy to just jump from all the things that you want. And you also want to take into consideration that as you put in craft and care into designing the work, you want to put in the same, if not more, craft and care into designing your portfolio. So you want to design it with a flow. You want to open with your best work. Maybe you have your next, best 2 to 3 pieces there. Oh, I'm sorry, talking too fast. So you want to have, put your best work in the front, and then you want to put your next best work in the back, and then you can kind of stagger the rest of your pieces in the center. And again, if you have 3 pieces, do that. If you have 5 pieces, do that. I would say the sweet spot is maybe 12 to 20 pieces. I wouldn't really do more than 20. That's a lot for somebody to digest. And, they're going to get the picture in the first 5 of whether they want to, pursue more of a conversation with you. So whether you're doing it as a PDF or you're doing it as a web page, you just want to, set it up and then go back and look at it through the eyes of a user. And how would they, did my slides go away? And how would they perceive it? Oh, sorry, what happened there? And how would they perceive it? And maybe share it with some friends and ask them to look at it and give you their feedback, so that you can really make sure that it's a positive experience and that people want to look at it. And then pricing. Pricing is really important. And again, I'm going to talk about numbers based on my experience, which is, US numbers, right? And also Los Angeles, which is a big city, so it's maybe a little different. I now live in North Carolina, and the numbers here are even different from the numbers in LA. So, kind of take the high level concepts that I'm talking about and apply it to you. So I think the biggest thing to take into consideration when you're building your design career there's different ways to look at pricing. Did I slow down enough? Sorry, I'm high energy and I talk really fast.
No, it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's fine. It's perfectly fine.
So the first thing is you can price your rate hourly. Now, if you're going to be working for a company, oftentimes they want you to work hourly, or it may benefit you to charge hourly. And I think there's questions that you want to ask yourself and experimentation to figure out what's going to be the best route. So if you're going to be at a company where you're going to work a lot of overtime, hourly is probably going to be better. I worked at an agency early, kind of mid-level in my career. And, I worked 12 hours a day was a low day for me. So I was working 12 to 15, 16 hours a day, every day for like 2.5 years. And so for me to have an hourly rate was amazing. So you just want to kind of take that into consideration. You can also do a day rate. And a day rate, the benefits of doing a day rate is, if you're going to work till, you're going to work a set number of hours every day, or you can kind of say, I'm done at this time. If you have a little bit more, leverage in that area, a day rate can be good because then you can create your budget on your end and know I'm working these number of days and I'm going to have these number of hours, and therefore I'm going to make X amount of money. Because if you work hourly, on average, you probably would work 8 hours a day, but, maybe it would be a little bit less. So my advice to you on this would be to, one, if the client has a specific way of paying, go with that. If they don't, then I would try both ways and see what you like better, because one might work better for you than the other. And you may charge a certain way for a specific client, and then you may charge another way for another client. So I just invite you to experiment, and also to realize that along the way of learning what your pricing should be, you're going to have times where you work more than you billed for. And that's just part of the process. And then you're going to have times where you're like, wow, I got paid really well and I didn't work as hard as I would have for a different job. So just know along the way that's going to happen, and that's going to be normal, and just accept it as part of the process. And I would invite you to take time after you do a job and sit down and kind of do a debrief and say, what worked well, what didn't work well, what do I want to do again, what do I not want to do again? And that's going to help you start to almost like self-coach and figure out what's working and what's not working. And then I think the biggest thing, especially when you're starting out, but no matter where you are in your business or in your career, is to know your numbers. And I talk to people that have businesses that are not designers, and this eludes people. And this actually eluded me for a really long time until someone just broke down the math for me. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, it's actually really easy when you understand how you should be looking at this situation. So again, I'm going to use US numbers. Wherever you are in the world, you can scale it down to whatever's a normal for where you are. So on average, then there's a few different ways you can look at pricing your work. So if you are a designer who's going into an agency or working for a company, on average in the US, I would say it's about $30,000 to $45,000 a year for someone who's a junior, someone who's new, who's starting out. So that would be the yearly salary. And then for someone who's a mid-level, I would estimate that it's about $45,000 to $80,000 would be someone who's mid-level. And someone who's senior is probably $80,000 or more, probably 80 to 100, 120, maybe a little bit more depending on the industry and the company. And then someone who's a creative director could be 90,000 or more. And again, that's indicative of the company and the industry and all of that. So knowing that, and this is for people that are working for companies, right? So knowing that, you want to do the math. And so I broke this math down for you. So we're going to just go with a case study of 75,000. And so what I invite you to do is sit down and say, how much money do I need to make, right? Like what's the baseline of paying my bills? Just kind of like baseline. Absolutely, I have to have this in order to do everything I need to do. And then, you can fluff it up from there. But you really need to know what is that baseline that you need to make in order to have a quality life. So if you say that you want to make $75,000 a year, and on average, you're working 40 hours a week, I would estimate it on a 50-week year, which means you're taking 2 weeks of vacation. Because if you work for yourself, if you work for yourself, you're not getting vacation. You're not getting paid for vacation. So when you do the math for that, that comes down to about $36 an hour. So if you see that and you do the math and you say, I want to make $75,000 a year, and if I'm working 40 hours a week and I'm taking 2 weeks of vacation a year, that's roughly $36 an hour, then I would say, give or take, your hourly rate when you're bidding on jobs or applying to jobs would be somewhere between $35 and $40 an hour, because you want to maybe price it a little bit more so that you can cover yourself. Maybe you need to take an extra, Judith, if you could put that in the questions, because we'll come back to that. Maybe there's, I would just compensate for, maybe you need to take a sick day or extra vacation. And so I would always like pad it a little bit above, just so you can set yourself up for success, right? And that you're not feeling like this constriction all the time because you're just barely making it. And so that's from an hourly perspective. Now, if you are doing more of a project-based, which you're either bringing clients in and kind of doing it in-house in your own business, or maybe you're going on site or working for companies and you're charging a day rate, then based on those same numbers, you would want to make $6,250 a month. So again, one thing that I would take into consideration if you're working for yourself is there are slow periods when you're not getting a salary all the time. And in my experience, typically December, January, and August are often on the slower side. So then if you're doing the math based on a monthly nut that you need to make, and 3 months could potentially be on the slower end, then you want to do the math based on 9 months. So if you're doing the math based on 9 months, then it comes out to $8,333. And again, I'm talking in US dollars. You can adjust this for wherever you are in the world. Then kind of your baseline would be $8,333 a month. So then you can look at the offers that you're creating and say, okay, if I need to make $8,300 to $8,500 or around there every month, 9 months minimum, and then everything over that is gravy, what packages and how many clients do I need a month in order to make that goal? And so that's really a helpful way to approach your money so that you can figure out how you're going to, what you need and what jobs to apply for, and also how much you can negotiate. Because you could go and apply to a job and they could say, our budget is $30 an hour. And, if it's a week job, maybe it's not a big deal. But if it's something that's like a 6 month or a year-long engagement, it's not going to be enough money for you to pay your bills and put money aside and all the things you need to be an adult and thrive. So that gives you some math to follow. And then sort of, throwing all that aside, if you decide to brand yourself as an artist or a designer or create your own brand, pretty much all that goes out the window. You can charge whatever you want. For example, I did a job when I was working at NBC for the Blacklist, and we hired an illustrator, and we paid him tens of thousands of dollars to create this illustration. And part of it was, working for a big company and the licensing fees and all of that. However, this was a well-known artist. They had their own brand. They had created a demand for their work that allowed them to price how they wanted, the way they wanted. So depending on where you are in your career, what you want to do with your business, you can price it. These are kind of the 3 thoughts of how to price your work. And I think the biggest thing that I would recommend is, no matter where you are in your business, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you take a job with an agency in some fashion. Why? Maybe you're like, I never want to work for a company. I only want to work for myself. It's really important to understand how things work inside of an agency so that you can get, like, it just fast tracks your success. You understand how to manage clients, how to organize files, how to organize folders, naming conventions, working with designers, taking criticism, giving criticism, how to structure a presentation. And yes, you can absolutely figure all that stuff out on your own through trial and error. And if you decide to go and work for an agency, I would say a minimum of a year and get all of this knowledge. Then when you go out and apply it to your own self, you can then take what works for you and just accelerate your progress that much faster. So that would be my recommendation, is to have that opportunity. And maybe it's a part-time thing, maybe it's through Designhill, but I would tag yourself along to some sort of well-established, organized organization so that you can really have this insight and learning. And along the way, I really encourage you to find a mentor or multiple mentors that you can ask to teach you and learn from a work standpoint. How I had one mentor, he was incredible in Photoshop, and I would bug him every day. I'd go into his office and look at what he was doing and ask him how he did it, and he was like, I'm working, because I knew I had access to this incredibly talented man, and I could learn from him. And I just soaked up all my information. I used to stay late and sit behind this one guy. He was an incredible painter, and he would sit there and he would just say, I'm going to do this and I'm doing that. And I just sat there, I shut my mouth, and I just soaked it all in. So if you can get yourself in a position where you can just soak up all this knowledge from someone, I mean, ideally you get paid. Maybe you're in a position to take some sort of paid internship or do a project with someone. Take advantage of learning from people that are further along than you, because it's going to just propel your growth that much faster. So Niti, are you there? Do you want to take a pause for a minute? Okay, she'll be back. So I'll keep moving. So the next thing that I want to talk about is creating an extraordinary client experience. And I know that there were some questions. You said, is it better if we start from a freelancing platform, or should we work on our own brand? That's a good question. I think you can do them simultaneously, right? Because building your own brand takes some time, and doing it on the freelancing platform, you can generate quicker revenue. And if your ultimate goal is to have your own brand, I would then move out of the freelancing platform, because again, kind of what I was saying with the hourly rate with the agencies, an agency has overhead, and if you ever bring designers on, you'll see what it's like. When you're hiring someone, you're like, okay, well, if I hire someone, they're going to take this, and then I got to pay these bills. So you just do the math differently if you're the one hiring someone. But I think being a part of a freelancing platform could help you start to understand systems and strategies and structures. So one thing I want to share that I think is really important is how to create an extraordinary client experience. Who here? Type in the chat.
Jordan, just 1 second. 1 second. We have a lot of questions,
Okay.
and we'll continue with the presentation in the second half of the session. But let's take a few questions quickly, take a break, and then quickly jump onto the rest of the presentation. We're really enjoying this a lot.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let me know what question would you like to start with?
All right. I will. I'm reciting it for you. The questions with maximum upvotes. 1 second. Yeah. So Amelia asks, how do you deal with difficult clients, especially when they keep asking for bad design changes?
Yes. Doesn't everyone love that? Well, I'll go into kind of more the specifics of that in the creating an extraordinary client experience. I think a lot of that is, so there's twofold. One is education, right? And this is one thing that I've started doing, is actually getting on the phone with clients. And like, I was working on something for a client, and they were like, I want to pull this from that design, and that from this design, and that from this design. And I was like, it doesn't work like that. I was like, I was very meticulous of why I designed things the way that I did. And, certain styles and fonts and vibes and patterns, like, they don't go with other things. They're not congruent. So I think there's a couple ways you can go about it. One, you can do the bad design that the client suggests and then do the good design that you think is better and say, I did your version. Here it is. However, based on my expertise, and I would always position yourself as an expert. And if you don't feel like one, then fake it till you make it. And say, I made this, and the reason, back to what I was talking about, the case study, the reason that I recommend going this road is because of blah, blah, blah. I chose this color, I made this thing, or whatever it is. So you can do their version and then your version. And I think there may potentially some of the challenges in the process could be lack of clarity in the front end with the client. So maybe you didn't ask the right questions. They aren't clear. I think there's ways that you can position things earlier on, which I can go more into when I talk about the client experience, to really kind of frame the process, the project, the relationship, so that you're not encountering stuff like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I hope that answers your question, Amelia. Actually, 19 people have voted for this question, so I'm sure a lot of people got their answers. Let's take one more question before we break for the mid-roll. Raymond asks, are there any resources where we can get data on potential clients?
Get details on potential clients? Well, that's always the unending question, right? Well, I think back to what I was talking about specializing, is figure out what you want to work on, right? Do you want to be a website designer? Do you want to do branding? Do you want to do, SaaS, which is software as service design? Do you want to do, social media design? Maybe there's a couple you want to try. I would figure out what it is that you want to actually do. And then you can go and find the clients that are looking for that thing. It's going to be way easier for you to figure out what you want to offer and then go find make sure that they need the offer, but find clients for the offer. Because otherwise, and I've done it both ways, and you can do it the other way where you're just like, I'll do whatever you need. I personally do not like that, because it just creates a huge scope of things, and it's just adding it on, and for me, it messes with my fulfillment time, because then it's so much, and it just becomes, projects can blow up really quickly, and then you maybe just don't have the bandwidth to do all the things. So the more that you can package your offer, and again, this is if you're working for yourself or creating stuff for people. If you're going on site to an agency, or you're hired by an agency, then they just say, go do this stuff, right? So that would be my recommendation.
All right. So let's quickly break for the mid-roll and get back to the session.
Go for it.
I've always been creative and always been an artist. As a young girl, I used to paint rocks, and I used to sell them for a quarter on the street. And I just fell in love with it. It just grew into a passion of mine. I started looking on the web, and I came across Designhill, and they had a design contest to design a logo, and I entered it, and I won. And I was like, oh, this is really great. I can pick and choose what type of logos or design projects I want to work on. And it allows me to be creative, keep my hands, with my tools and working. So it's kind of nice. It's really easy to use. You can scroll through the projects, and there's sections that you could go by. It's really easy. There's a few clients who have come back to use the one-on-one projects. There's one client in particular, she owns a vintage shop, and I designed her logo, and she came back. She needed a design for a flyer, and she really liked the illustrations that I did for her, so she came back a couple of times with projects. I would recommend it, especially if you're a designer that's starting out and you want to learn from other designers, seasoned designers. It's a place to keep in the game and keep using your tools. It makes me feel great, and it kind of confirms that I should be doing this. And I love to see logos that I've designed out, and proud of that. And I think that the clients are so happy that their logo represents what they do and makes them look good. It's a collaboration. It's good for me, and it's definitely good for them.
All right. I think the screen actually was stopped somewhere in the between. We can jump back to the presentation. Jordan, can you please share your screen again? You are on mute.
My bad. um,
No problem.
let me, I actually want to share something with you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys have a portfolio that you want to share, I would love to check it out. And you can just send it this way. You can save the link and fill it out later. But I'd love to see your work and learn more about you. So feel free to share that along the way. And let me share my screen back here. Let's see here. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I think this will go back to some of your questions around the client work, is how to kind of manage expectations, how to create a good client experience. And I think there's definitely an art to creating a good client experience, and that goes on both sides. One, that is a good experience for the client, having a smooth process and then getting a good outcome, but also for you as a creative to have a positive and pleasant experience of actually creating the stuff. I mean, type in the chat, who here has worked on a project with a client and it's just turned into a mess? Like, they're not happy, you're not happy, they ask for revision after revision. It just becomes a super frustrating experience for everybody. We've all had it. And I think that there's ways, that you can go about setting yourself up for success in the front end so that you mitigate some of that challenge later. So the first thing that's really important is to design a really amazing onboarding experience. And what I mean by that is, think about, I know for me, when I sign on to do something, I like to know what's going to happen, right? I don't need to necessarily know everything, but it's like, oh, if I, like for example, if I sign up with a coach, okay, I sign up with a coach and then I'm going to fill out the welcome email and then we're going to schedule our first call and then we're going to meet every week. So I understand the expectations, the cadence, the rhythm, and really kind of the bird's eye view of what our relationship is going to be like. And I think that's really important for you as a designer to do the same thing for your clients, because if you just, sign on and they're like, okay, cool. And then they're sitting over there and they're like, when am I going to get the revision? When is it going to happen? What are you delivering? When are you delivering it? What's happening? They're getting anxiety, and that's going to come out as micromanaging on your end, right? They're going to be like, when am I going to see the thing? And then they're going to be irritated. So the more that you can say, yes, you can share a PDF file. That's totally fine. The more that you can, tell them what to expect, the better. So if you can have, like a clear outline, automate whatever you can, so one thing you can do, I mean, I spent a lot of the summer, because especially with COVID, I'm at home and my daughter's home, and it's just like, I just don't have the bandwidth that I used to. I needed to systematize and automate a lot of the things that I did. So I sat down and actually worked with someone to help me figure out what my workflows were. And what a workflow means is, what do you do? Like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And sometimes there's, like dependencies, that if this happens, this happens. So I sat down and I really worked through what are all the steps that I'm taking my client on as we, begin our relationship together, right? Is I'm, take payment, accept a contract, maybe have some sort of intake form, maybe you have some sort of onboarding material. And I would definitely set up some sort of project management system. And, who here has worked on email, and it's like the revision is buried 12 layers deep in an email and you can't find it. And you're like, I swear they sent the thing, but I can't find it. And then you spend like 20 minutes digging through your email, looking for the feedback that you have to do. So I really recommend finding a project management software that you definitely use for yourself. Maybe you set up job boards for, so Trello is the one that people like. I use that. I personally don't find the functionality is enough for me. I really like Asana. I've used Infinity. Yeah, you can post everything on Instagram. That's fine too. You can also make highlights on Instagram if you do specialize in specific things. So you could make specialty highlights and then share that with clients. So they go in and they click on the highlight link of like, here's all my branding, here's all my website, whatever it may be, right? So there's just ways to do that. Yeah, Asana is great too. ClickUp is good. In the resources, that'll go out. I personally wouldn't use Pinterest as your portfolio. You know, you could, I guess, but I wouldn't use that as your lead. You could maybe use that as a backup. And so in the link that's going to go out with the replay, I have like hundreds of resources for you guys of stock photography, places to put your portfolio, font resources, like you name it, time management resources. So make sure to grab that, and you'll just get access to all these resources, and you can go through and check them out. There's tons that you've never even heard of, because I research and I collect and I store things, and I do a lot of work in the online space. So definitely make sure to grab that. And then the other thing too is you really want to have clear communication with your client, and you want to make sure that, you know, as you're going, you say, you know, here's X deliverable, and you want to say what the next steps are in every exchange, and say, here's, you know, revision 1, the next step is for you to provide me feedback by X time. And I would always be very clear of what the deadline is on your end and their end, because if you just send it to them and you're like, get back to me, you know, they're going to be busy, and it's going to just get pushed aside again and again and again. So the more that you can control the expectations and the process, just the better experience it's going to be for everyone involved. And, you know, one thing that I've found is helpful is to, okay, I don't know what that you just shared there. One thing that I recommend is doing a brand reveal. I heard about it and I tried it, and I found that it's really beneficial, because instead of just emailing the client the revision or the presentation, I actually get on a call with them on a Zoom, and I walk them through and say, you know, here's your color palette, here's your aesthetic, here's your fonts, all this. And I explain why I did all the things that I did, because I think, again, it's that like lack of information that people start to freak out, and they don't understand why it is. So if you could say, I chose this color because of that, and this was the lead color, and these are the fonts, they're like, oh, okay, I totally get it. And you're going to cut down on a lot of back and forth, and people, clients just being unhappy and asking for a lot of revisions. So, and then I think this is kind of back to one of our questions is, you want to make sure that you're diving into strategy, and that's a whole piece unto itself. I didn't really, I mean, there wasn't a lot of strategy in entertainment advertising. It was like, we're launching a movie, we need things, like, get to work. It wasn't, we're using this demographic, we want this kind of look, we want this kind of, you know, showcase this actor. You know, as data became more prevalent, that did become a bigger deal. But in the beginning, it was just like, go create stuff, and then the client picked what they liked, and it was very subjective. And so when I went out and was doing more client-based work and branding, I realized real quick that I needed to have strategy work so that I was delivering something really beneficial to the client, but then I also understood what the process was. So, you know, you really want to understand who your clients' clients are, right? Like, who is their target market? Because someone whose client is a corporate client versus maybe, you know, a stay-at-home mom, their aesthetic and the user experience is going to be different, because the end user is different. So if you're finding you're having communication issues with your clients, you want to ask better questions in the front end when you're onboarding your client, so you can gather as much information as you possibly can, so that you can really set yourself up for success. And so the last piece I want to share with you guys is time management, because I think that is one of the trickiest things. Who here, and share in the chat, has gone about their day, and at the end of the day, you get to the end of the day and you're just like, I don't know what happened. Like, stuff happened, but I don't feel like I got anything productive done. And it's because, you know, maybe you're just not putting your focus and energy into the right activities. And at the end of the day, in my experience, these about the contracts, yes, I'm not legal. I can touch on that. I would definitely talk to a lawyer about that. I can kind of share with you things that I put into the contracts. So the different areas that you want to focus on are sales. And I know some of you might shudder at that, right? If you're working for Designhill, you don't have to do that as much. Business development. And business development means creating things for future business growth. Fulfillment, which is actually doing the client work. When you're sitting down to actually design the stuff or create the stuff, that's client fulfillment. Then you have admin, that's, all the things, right? Like emails and automations and all the things like that. And then team. So team could be someone that you're working with, that you've hired to help you with someone, or someone that you've partnered with. And so, how do you take this and where do you put your focus? Now, I broke this down for you guys so that you can kind of see where you should be putting your time and energy based on where you are in your business. Now, if you're an early stage designer and you're just starting out and you don't really have a lot of clients and you're just, kind of figuring out who your people are, if this is based on a 40-hour week, you want to be doing 40% of your time in sales, 40% of your time in business development, 15% of your time in fulfillment, and 5% in admin, right? And, maybe if you're doing marketing, maybe you pull a little bit of time out of business development to be doing marketing. And what's behind that is you want to be doing sales. And by sales, that is doing research of who are my clients? Who are my competitors? Having conversations with people, reaching out to your network, asking them how they're doing. Say, I'm working on my design portfolio, or I've started a design business, or I'm working with, yoga companies. I'm looking for clients. Do you know of anyone? Just starting relationships, nurturing contacts, and just seeing what comes from having those conversations. And then actually having sales calls when you do have someone, book in to talk to you about your services. Then you've got your business development. And I saw some questions come up of what do you do if you don't have a portfolio? Well, you make one up, right? You pick a thing that you want to do, right? Figure out kind of what areas you want to start in. Let's just say you want to do social media graphics, you could make up a brand, or you can pick a brand that you like and just make a campaign, make it up. And you can say, this is a comp campaign or a spec campaign that I created. And so you can be spending a lot of time making a portfolio if you don't have a lot of client work. And then fulfillment, if you have some client work that's kind of building, then you can, grow that from there. And then admin, there's always going to be email and things like that you're going to want to be checking. So that's kind of, a good rule of thumb. And then if you're a growing designer, which means you've kind of passed through this early designer phase, you want to be focusing about 12 hours on sales, right? You've done some work in sales and it's starting to kind of move through the pipeline and you're having more luck with, bringing people in. You've done a lot of business development. Your portfolio is solid. You have solid offers. So you don't need to be doing a ton of that because you have those things in place that you're now selling and bringing clients in and fulfilling on. Which means now you're doing a lot more in the fulfillment side because now you have clients and you're making the things that they paid you for. So you may have a little bit more admin, because maybe you're doing more on the onboarding side, whatever that may be. You're doing more marketing. You're out there. Maybe you're doing, more stuff on Instagram or Pinterest or whatever it may be. Maybe you're doing more lives. You're sending out emails. You're spending more time now sharing your message that you're starting to build an audience and a following. And then maybe you have some sort of team. Maybe you have someone that's helping you with your admin, or you have someone that's helping you with design, or you have someone that's helping you set up your email list. Maybe people have different needs for team at different times in their business. So and again, it's not a hard and fast rule that if you break these times, it's like, oh my gosh, I failed. It's really to help you understand where you should be putting your energy depending on where you're in your business. Because if you're totally out of balance, eventually the wheels are going to fall off the car, right? And I noticed this like when COVID hit is I was doing lives every day. I was like totally in the groove and I was just like, oh, I finally got into a system with my marketing. And then COVID hit and I was just like, like everything came crashing down. Just like, I'm just trying to stay above water. I have schooling to handle now. Like it was super chaotic, and it's still chaotic in a lot of ways. And so you have to kind of like look, and I started to track. And so this is something I want to share with you guys. I noticed that things they weren't flowing the way they were. And it just like things were out of balance. And so these are all the things. Sorry, I skipped the page. Oh, did I take it out? Oh no, here, sorry, I flipped it around. So I ended up buying this thing called Timular, which has been super helpful. And I'll put the link in the chat in a minute. And, there's tons of tracking software that you can put out there. And, you can use anything. This one I really like because I just could never remember to go turn things on. This is like this, diamond shaped thing that I've color coded that sits on my desk. And as I switch activities throughout the day, I literally just rotate it to the color of whatever it is. And so when I first got it, I just tracked I didn't like have any expectations. I just tracked what I was doing. I was like, where is my time going? And I realized I literally spent no time on marketing. Like 2 weeks went by, I didn't do any marketing. I'm like, this is not bueno. I need to turn this around, because if I'm not marketing, then people are not going to be able to find me. So then I started to change my behaviors and my actions based on what I saw from my time tracking. And, some people are like, oh my God, I can't wait to time track. That's amazing. I would say create a routine and do it. I mean, I do this every week, and then I kind of review at the end of the week and then make changes as needed. And some people are like, I just have no desire to track. Some people are a little bit more spontaneous. I totally get that. However, I would really challenge you to spend a week to do this and just at least get a baseline of what is going on in my life, what is going on in my business, and how can I improve it. And if you're not into doing this on a regular basis, plan to do it once a quarter, so you can kind of like regroup and check in and figure out where you are. So that's how you can kind of see where your energy is going and make sure that you're on track. So I'll share this link with you guys, and then we can open it up for some questions. 1 second here.
Absolutely. So, presuming the presentation is done, do we have anything left?
No, I think it's just questions now.
Yes, of course. So we do have a lot of questions here, and okay, Jordan is also sharing a link with us of Timular that she was talking about. Just, click on the link, guys. You must have gotten a pop-up on your screen. Just go there, and yeah. So a lot of people are also asking for your LinkedIn profile so they can get in touch with you. So I have kind of figured out the link to your LinkedIn profile, and I am dropping in here for everyone's reference. Right. So it's here. Right. Okay, let's quickly take some questions with the maximum number of upvotes so that we cover. I'm sorry that it's a question about by Akash, and he's not very happy being in India as a designer. So because in India you get paid peanuts if you are working at a company or as a freelancer. So how can we work for companies or freelance work for people overseas? So he's trying to understand if there's a possibility of someone sitting in India to work for an international client and how to get them.
I think you absolutely can. I mean, I've worked with people in India in different ways in my business. And again, I think it's about how you position yourself. Like I've worked with someone who helps me with my social media, and he charges on par social media management prices of anyone in the world. And then, I've worked with other people that are charging much less for different things. And so I think, again, it's back to that positioning and really packaging your expertise, and back to the mindset of I'm not someone that's making peanuts working for these companies. I'm someone that has this gift, has this talent, has this expertise to share, and I'm going to package it, and I'm going to run my business like anyone else, and it doesn't really matter where I live.
Right, absolutely. I hope that answers your question, Akash. We have yet another question by Tejaswini, and she says, companies these days want a designer who knows to do everything. For example, someone who does web design, logo design, illustration, motion graphics, everything under the sun. So how do you go about finding a niche if it doesn't get you hired?
Yeah, I noticed this myself too. And I'm like, wow, that opportunity sounds really awesome, but they want me to know motion graphics, and I don't know motion graphics, and I'm not going to learn this now. So, I definitely think that there's, because now it's so readily available for people to, download Photoshop, and they don't understand that creative work is niching just like everything else. Like doing web design and creating a logo is a very different skill set and talent. And some people can do all of them, but it's like, are you a master of something or a master of none? So, maybe you have a couple specialties. I don't think you necessarily need to do all of them. Some people are really good at illustration. Like, I'm not an illustrator. I'm not good at drawing. I'm like, I can make you a killer stick figure, but I can take other drawings and make really cool stuff out of it. Like, if you look at yourself, are you an illustrator designer, an InDesign designer, or Photoshop designer? And maybe like After Effects or Adobe, what is it, the UX one? I can't remember what it's called. But you can kind of almost think of yourself of like, what is your program that you lead with? And I think it's about finding those jobs, and depending on where that comes from, right? If it's like an online thing, it may be harder. But if you're starting to connect with people directly, and just say, well, I've got experience in graphic design and logo design, those are my specialties. And I think it's really, the more value that you can create with the work that you are really good at, the more people are going to say, wow, I want to hire someone to do that. Because I think that personally, that's an error on the side of the people doing the hiring. Because I mean, that's like asking someone to be like, can you be a car photographer? And can you also be a wedding photographer? And can you also be a food photographer? No, I cannot. They're all very different.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that insightful advice. I think, okay, let's take a few more questions. Okay, Prachi asks a very simple question. She says she's looking for a graphic designer's job, but not getting any because not having experience, because of not having experience. So, this problem is something that, every fresher faces, because every client out there needs some kind of experience. But, it's not really, it's really hard on the designers who are just starting out. So how to tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there, and I totally get it. And I think, part of it is the mindset of knowing, this is, it's kind of like starting the car, and, if it's cold outside, you got to let it idle for a minute to be able to go. Is, maybe you're spending your time after hours, or if you're looking for clients, you're learning your craft, you're building your portfolio, you're kind of doing you're making a mock job, right? So that you're not coming to them with like, well, I don't have any experience and I don't have any work. It's like, oh, I have this portfolio that I've created, and I'm ready to work with someone. And, maybe in the beginning you need to do a couple like trades, I'll do your logo for whatever it is, or I'll do your logo and you do this thing. And, I would limit that to 3. I mean, when I first started out, my first mentor was like, never work for free. And I was like, oh, I was like 21. I'm like, okay. And I don't work for free. I mean, every now and then I'll do a favor, but usually it's like, I'll do this, and then, it's more of a trade than for free. So I think if you are in that position, look for people that need a trade, either a testimonial or a video testimonial or both, or, maybe it's like a yogi person and they're going to do yoga lessons for you. So you can get some clients and be creative about it. And maybe you're doing more of a trade, up to 3 people to have a little bit more experience.
Absolutely. So I think it also answers a question asked by Tilotma. She's saying, should we start off by working for free, which you said we should not do, right?
I mean, I personally don't recommend working for free. I would position it more as a trade. Like, either I'll trade you for a testimonial, or a case study, right? Which means like they need to provide some data of how the work helped you. It's like, I'll do the thing, but I need the stuff for you so that I can go sell my service. Or maybe I've had clients that, they're Reiki healers, and I was like, I'll do a free coaching session and trade you for a Reiki session, right? So you could do a trade. I just think when you work for free, people don't value you the same.
Right. Absolutely. I agree to you. Let's take the last question of the session, and it's an important one. Ashraf says he's interested in several different niches, but he doesn't know how to get started or specialize in a specific niche at a time. So how to plan, like, do we have to specialize in one niche at a time, or we could do both simultaneously? Like, it's what do you suggest? Is it a good idea to kind of sail in 2 boats at one time?
Yeah, I think you can, right? And I think if you can diversify, like if you're a really good illustrator, start looking for illustration clients. If you're, really good at web design, I think, like, back to what I said before in the specialization piece, is I think you can do different things. And even, today clients are looking for designers that have all of these skill sets, which some of them kind of overlap, and some to me is like, that's crazy that you're asking someone to do all of those things at the same time. And so, you can explore them all, and you may find over time, you're like, I actually don't enjoy doing that thing. Or I do this and I get paid a lot more for it. So I would say, at any point in your business, and especially in the beginning, try different things and see what people respond to from you, what is successful, what you enjoy doing. And I think at the end of the day, it's like, what do you enjoy doing? And, there's times in our career we have to just like work on jobs. I mean, I've worked on jobs that were not amazing, but I learned a lot, and sometimes you just got to do that. But I think like figuring out and just like constantly moving yourself in the direction of what do I enjoy the most and how can I add the most value?
Great. So I guess it was really an insightful session. I hope we have already exceeded the time, and I can see almost 91 people are still sticking with us till the end. So it's a great sign that the session went really well. We would love to hear more from you, Jordan, but we are limited by time here today.
Absolutely.
So this actually brings us to the end of this wonderful session with Jordan. Indeed, a value-packed session. There is a lot more that we could have discussed, but unfortunately, like I said, we are limited by time here today. I hope you guys loved this session. Once again, I would like to thank you, Jordan, for taking out time to be a part of this event. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys could share in the chat, what did you find the most valuable? What was your biggest insight today? And what is one thing that you plan to implement moving forward? Any last insight? I think, that you're always growing and you're always learning, and, always figure out how you can find excitement in the craft, right? Like I was just in Photoshop this morning. I'm like, wow, look at all these new ways that they have. Like I didn't even know of all these new ways that I can do things. That's exciting. So always keeping it playful and exciting, because there's times where you just kind of feel like you're slogging through and it's just drudgery and you're just like, clocking in, clocking out. So ways that you can keep yourself inspired, either through personal, hobbies or side projects, but just always keep that spark alive and that love for creativity, because that is going to emanate into everything. And the moment that you lose that and you just start to go through the motions, it's just gonna, like, all your creativity is just gonna kind of collapse in on itself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to have you here with us, Jordan. We look forward to many more sessions with you so that, our design community learn ample they get to learn from you. All right, guys, this is not where it ends. We have a lot more events lined up at Designhill. My colleague Robin would be putting up the link of the events section in the chat. If you guys are interested and haven't registered yet, I'm putting the link of the event section in the chat. Please go and register yourself for any event that you find interest in. To stay updated with events like these, you can follow us on our LinkedIn page. You can also give us suggestions on the topics you would like us to cover, and our LinkedIn page in chat section again. To watch the session and other such wonderful events, subscribe to our event section on designhill.com/events, and also our YouTube channel at Designhill. The link will be in the chat box again. For all the designers and artists who are listening to this and wish to be a part of this thriving design community, designhill.com is your place to be, guys. Also, one very important announcement: we have recently launched some really cool design challenges which are worth $5,000 per month. Any designer or non-designer can be a part of it and create some awesome designs using our DIY design tool called Designhill Studio. The link will be in the chat box again. On that note, I would like to say bye to everyone who joined us here today. Thank you for being such a great audience as always. Take care, guys, and stay safe. Bye, Jordan.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.